So we got a question from our friend Chris P. Bacon. Chris P, I don't think that's your real name, but we're going to use it anyway. So Chris's question is about the all or nothing mindset that he's had in jiu-jitsu. So he says that, he's 30 years old now, and when he was younger in his 20s, man, he was just training all the time. Like training, he would go to work, he would get off work, go train, all night long, lift, run. He swore off like all of his social gatherings. He didn't drink. He was obsessed about his diet. Everything revolved around his jiu-jitsu. And now he's like 30 years old. He likes to, I looked at his Instagram. He likes to shoot guns, drink some bourbon. That's actually where this conversation came from. Me and some of the guys were having a bourbon tasting, and he replied to the picture that we posted. And so he's trying to find moderation. So he's trying to find balance, is what he says, and still progress in jiu-jitsu. And he's wondering if I have any tips. So Chris P, thanks for the question, dude. And the thing I would say is, first off, progression. You're progressing. If you're training consistently and you're there, right, mentally you're there in your class and you're giving a full effort and you're listening to what your coaches say, you're progressing. Sometimes you don't feel like it because where you are now, you might be looking back over your shoulder at the past and remember that 20-year-old Chris who was training all the time and was getting better and just leaps and bounds and was just getting after it because that's all they had to do. They didn't have any responsibilities or any other things that they liked in life, right? Well, then yeah, you're going to feel like you're not cutting it up. But the thing is you're not there anymore, right? You're here now and you're in a different place. And if you're training consistently, man, I guarantee you're getting better. You just have to not judge yourself by either your former self or judge yourself by anyone else. Just judge yourself by yourself. And to me, again, sometimes just being in the gym, that's what the battle is, right? Because you got all these other things pulling you in life. Being consistent and having a routine and making it to the gym 1, 2, 3 days a week, whatever it might be, that's the battle sometimes. So if you're accomplishing that, you're winning that battle, good for you. You're getting better. Now, as far as the balance thing, man, I have no clue on what to tell you about balance because I don't have balance, right? People would look at the way that I live my life if I was to write down a schedule, and they would say, man, your life is very imbalanced, right? But it's what makes me happy, and it's what's helping me. My life's always been kind of imbalanced, depending on where I was going. To me, it's more about positioning and alignment, right? Like you have your goal, you have the things that you want in life, and then you position yourself to make those things happen. Simple as that. So I don't think balance, because balance is going to be different for everyone. Like balance, when I was training just like you, because I was the same way back when I was in my early 20s, all the way and probably until 30, was I trained all the time, man. I would teach all the time. I would train all the time. I would do everything that I could to do jiu-jitsu. I would, I didn't drink alcohol as well. I swore off all sorts of social gatherings. My life, just like yours, my life took a backseat to training. I just wanted to train. And it was okay because that was balanced for me at that time. And it helped me accomplish the things that I deeply wanted to accomplish that made me happy. So that was okay. Where I'm at now, just like you, it's changed a little bit where I don't compete as much. I've tried to teach a little bit less because there's other goals that I have to accomplish for the gym to make things work in a better way, in a more profound way. And so again, this is balanced now, but back then it wouldn't have been balanced, and vice versa. So I'll give you sort of an example of what I'm talking about here, and then maybe this will be useful to you. So I've had several situations, just jiu-jitsu related. I don't want to get into anything else, but as far as where this sort of tearing away process has happened, right? Where the snake sort of shed its skin. When I got into jiu-jitsu first out of wrestling, didn't want to play on my back. I wanted to do takedowns all the time. Playing on my back was painful. Not physically, it was mentally painful because I felt like I was doing something wrong. And it took a long time to untrain that, right? Months of me being on my back every single time I rolled to sort of untrain that and get rid of that in my head. When I became a professional MMA fighter, I remember that was exciting. I was like, I'm a professional MMA fighter. I remember getting my first check when, I was at this casino. It was my first MMA fight. Went out there and beat the guy, got done. And I remember walking back and getting my first check. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I just got paid to fight. That was great. And after a couple of MMA fights afterwards, I was like, I don't really want to do this anymore. This is not who I feel like I'm supposed to be. So I stopped fighting. That was painful. It was very emotional. I remember when the day that me and my friend, we sort of he was telling me, he's like, look, man, why are you fighting? Because he's like, I can tell you don't want to do it. Just stop. And when he said that, I was like, he told me, and I hadn't said it to anybody, but he knew it. And I was like, you're right. And I remember crying a little bit. I was like, I was upset because, not upset in a way, but it was just it was an emotional moment because I was pulling away from, again, who I was and who I got attached to. I got attached to being a fighter. I built myself up as that person, as one of the fighters in the city and one of the fighters in the area who's pretty good. Now I'm letting go of that, and I don't know where I'm going now. Then I started to focus more on jiu-jitsu competitions, right? I started to compete all the time, and it was getting into that whole thing. And then, a couple years ago, I started to pull away from competitions. Now I still compete from time to time. Most of the time now it's on a drop of the hat because I can't focus on them because when I focus on a competition, I'm zeroing in. Like, so if I have a competition coming up, I can't help but focus on that competition, and everything else sort of falls by the wayside. I can't do that right now because there's other things I'm still accomplishing outside of the competition realm. And so for me, when I decided that I was not going to compete as much, that was kind of painful because, again, man, I became attached to being a competitor. My own self, not anybody else, it's me, right? Like, it's my actions, my beliefs, and so I have this feeling. I've been competing since I was 14 years old in something grappling related or fighting related, and now to say you're not going to do that anymore, that's kind of painful to me. So I was like, ugh. Right? And now you're kind of in the same boat, I imagine, where you were this 20-something-year-old guy who was training his ass off, and now you're 30 years old, and you had a break in between. So I imagine that during that break, you know, you didn't train, so then you did other things. And when you come back to it now, because you said you watched some of the videos, you got pumped up, came back to training. So now that you're back into training, the only sort of experience that you have to go back on, to rely on, and to sort of feed from is the old training experience where you were training your ass off and you were training so much so that your life took a back seat, and then you're back in that same boat. And now you're trying to find the struggle. Because you know you don't want to do it, right? You want to be here where you're like training a little bit, shooting guns, drinking some bourbon, having fun with your friends in other areas. But then you feel your old self like tugging you back, like come back to training, right? Train all day long. And you know that you don't want to do it, but for some reason you feel like you have to, just out of sheer consistency because it's who you used to be. So I've been there before, and that's the only thing I would say is that you have to basically just mark out your territory and say no. It's as simple as that. I know it sounds funny, but like now I get messages all the time where people say, hey, Chew, you want to compete in the super fight? And man, 2 years ago, I would have jumped on them. But now it's like, I can't do that because if I do that, then I'm messing up everywhere else. And I deeply want to. Like there's a pulling in me, that there's that tugging of old Chewy saying, hey, come back. Let's go compete. Just let's do this one. This will be exciting, right? And then I have to say, no, I'm not going to do that because I have to map out everything around me because I know where I want to go. Right? And deep down, I know where you want to go. So I don't have this figured out. Even now, like we're getting ready to potentially move the gym. There's no guarantee, but we're looking at other places, right? And so we're looking at some other places. And just the thought of moving this physical location is a little freaky because I know this location. I've been here since 2007. It works. I know it. It's known. It's stable. It's comfortable, right? It's become my little fortress of solitude times where I can come in early in the morning or late at night sometimes by myself and work out and just go clear my head and think and recharge my battery for everyone else. But again, it's known. And to move into the unknown is kind of scary. It can be really awesome, potentially, right? But it's scary. And so it's the same thing for you. You're letting go of an identity, and it's a little scary because you knew who this person was, and you knew who you were at that point. And now you're moving into a different sort of stage. You're saying, okay, I'm going to be crispy bacon. I got to say it again, man. I keep thinking of that pig when the news announcer was talking about the little pig named Crispy Bacon, and he couldn't stop laughing. So Crispy Bacon, you're thinking about now we're moving into Crispy, who's Monday, Tuesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, or whatever your training schedule is going to be, but a couple days a week. And you're like, what does that even look like? Am I going to be good enough? Am I going to be progressing? What's going to happen? And so the thing is, man, just do it. Like that's who you want to be. So regardless of how it's going to work out, just do it because you know that's where you want to go. So again, not necessarily a clear-cut answer, but obviously we're all going through it. I feel like it's just a part of living, man. We're going to constantly adapt and change. And Chris, hope this helps you, brother. Good luck.